Hello, my name is Penza Vaughn, and I work at Lindbergh. Welcome to the Eagles First Cast. I teach math at Lindbergh, seventh grade and seventh grade Excel, and I'm here with some fellow teachers, and now I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm April Madison. I teach seventh and eighth grade history as well as Female Leadership Academy.
Hi, my name is Takima Ely, and I teach ELA 6th, 7th, and 8th, as well as history and our leadership web class.
Hello, I'm Donnell Wright. I teach ELA 8th grade as well as Male Leadership Academy and Ethnic Studies.
And so we're here today. Our topic is going to be community, focusing on resources in the African American community. As I said, my name is Penza Vaughn, and I've taught at Lindbergh for about 20 years. So talking about community, it makes me think of a village. And I looked up a couple definitions for a village, one of which was a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. Another one, a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. And that really speaks to me because when we think of a village, as we have often heard, it takes a village. So I equate the village with the community. And then while I was at church on Sunday, I heard a young lady for Black History say her village is her dream team, which I believe that is our goal.
And it's very interesting looking at the idea of community. When I think of the community that I grew up in, and I always have to put a plug in for my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. Woo!
Nice.
Go Browns, go Cavs, go Guardians, right? So when think about growing up, we really had that community feel. Our family was a community, and we grew up with. I have both sides of my family there. So my mom's side was there, and my dad's side was also in Cleveland. And so growing up with my cousins, as many of us did, we grew up really close, and we were almost like extended siblings, more than cousins per se. And so I have very fond memories of growing up in that kind of a community. And even in your neighborhood, our neighborhoods were communities, and everyone knew each other. And I mean, it was so tight knit that if you were doing something you weren't supposed to, Mrs. Johnson down the street, could correct you.
Somebody's always accountable.
Right. And by the time you got home, mom and dad already knew what had happened. And
Right.
and they would kind of revisit the issue with you. And so, very fond memories of that kind of community. And even thinking about like the church community where we grew up. Of course, church was spiritual, but it was so much more than that. We were socialized in church. We got opportunities for public speaking in church, saying those remember the Easter and Christmas speeches, and you would forget the words sometimes, and they would say, "Come on, baby, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it." And so just so many fond memories of that. And even down to our cuisine. It's good old soul food, right?
Yes.
Very fond memories of the culture of coming together like after church for Sunday dinners. And those were the absolute best. And I have a very funny, interesting story. A group of friends and we had gone out to M&M's. I think it's the M&M's over on La Cienega, is it? The one
Yeah.
near Magic Johnson?
Okay.
Yes, over in that area. So we went and we were there. We were waiting to be seated. So they seated us, and then in walks Little Richard. This is during his lifetime, right? So in walks Little Richard with a group of his family and friends or whomever. And they ended up, I don't know if it was to conserve space, but they ended up just pushing both of our tables together.
Nice.
And so we all had dinner together.
Little Richard.
Right,
That's really
and he was very personable,
Wow.
and it's LA, so you don't want to act too starstruck. So,
But you
but we enjoyed each other's company, and we were just one big happy family. So that's what community really means to me.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yes. And as Dr. Wright and Miss Bond stated, community in my neighborhood was everything as well. We spent time with lots of family members. We also had lots of friends in the community. When it came to community in my neighborhood, many of my mom's friends actually lived doors down. Oftentimes, I had an aunt who lived maybe a few doors down as well.
Wow.
And oftentimes, I recall when I was when I was in elementary school, we would have opportunities where we would all go to school together. There was an uncle who lived actually a door down from us, and he would stand out about 7 a.m. and he would call all of our names
Wow.
to come out and run and jump at the van to
Wow.
school, which was really interesting. So community in my neighborhood meant everything. There were cousins, lots of family friends, as well as church Sundays. I mean, my grandmother would take us to church. Oftentimes, we would have a church bus pick us up.
Yes.
And then when that church bus would pick us
The
up, we
church
would
bus.
be there and, really enjoy our church service. There were often times where we would do plays at church. So community in my neighborhood and in the inner city of Los Angeles was everything to me. Yeah.
And on church, remember the candy lady?
Yes.
At church, right?
Yeah.
Right. That was an important part of the church experience. You would
Yes.
have the candy lady. And I still have a candy lady at my church now.
Yes.
Who every Sunday she will find me and make sure I get a bag of candy.
Wow.
And so can't forget the candy lady.
Yes,
Right.
yes, yes. So when we think about community, I think about our schools, I think about our churches, I think about every organization or every business that's in the community that really supports and uplifts all of the young people in the community.
Well, the community I grew up in is this very community. I am educated from K through 12 in Long Beach Unified School District. So I relate so much to my students and their backgrounds and growing up in Long Beach. So I identify with some of what all of you guys are saying, our love of church, and how much we benefit and get from church, and that part being part of that community, as well as my family. I grew up with a smaller my core family, my nuclear family. My mother's family is from Philadelphia. We are the first ones, me and my sister's first ones born in California. So everybody else is either in Kentucky or in Philadelphia. But I do have cousins. My mother's sister, she did come to California as well. But so I grew up in a small community, and my friends, my peers, my teachers, and all the the people around me, my neighbors, they were very much a part of my community. My love for Long Beach. I think Long Beach is an amazing place, a little bit like nowhere else, and it's been a blessing to be a part of this community.
Nice.
And it's so interesting, Miss Madison, as you mentioned how your roots go back to Philadelphia, and how for many of us, our roots began in the South, really, as a community, as a community at large.
I represent
Kentucky,
Kentucky too.
and due to the Great Migration, many of our forefathers left the South and went to points north. And it's even interesting to look at the patterns of migration, how more people from your southern states on the eastern seaboard migrated to places like Baltimore and Washington, D.C. and New York. Whereas for me in Cleveland and Chicago, Detroit, those areas, most of those people came from states like Mississippi and ended up in those cities. And in California, I'm told most of us came from Texas and Louisiana and Alabama. And so that sense of community was something it was a matter of survival in many cases. And as I was looking even at the history of soul food, the name soul food came from that desire to preserve the legacy and the sense of community as we migrated from one place to the next. So
Yeah, as you say, like with my family, they came from, my mother's side of the family came from Detroit by way of Alabama.
right.
And I still consider, like my uncles, my mother was the only one here from her side of the family. My dad's family is from Mississippi. There's only a few of them here, but I still looked at the community as my uncles always saying, okay, do good in school. All right, you're going to go to college, and what are you going to do? And that was part of my community, even though they weren't centrally here. They were in Detroit,
Right.
but that was part of my dream team.
Right. And my family came from Alabama. I have family that came from Oklahoma on my father's side. On my mother's side, family came from Alabama. And one of the things that stick with me is that the move from Alabama to California was from surviving to thriving. My grandmother wanted her children to thrive. She wanted her grandchildren to thrive. And I think that was the reason why a lot of African Americans decided to move from the South into the cities, into the largest urban cities.
Yes, and that's so true, Ms. Ely. When I think of my parents, my dad was from West Virginia, mom was from Mississippi. Both of them only had high school education. And when I think, I'm going to try to keep it together when I talk about this. When mom would talk about how she grew up in Mississippi, the only year she went for a full year of school was her senior year in high school, because they weren't able to work. They weren't able to attend school for the full year because they had to go into the fields during the harvest season. And so her and my dad had very strong, very high expectations for my sister and I. And even though they may not have understood our homework sometimes, but we had other people in the village, members from our family, members from the church, family friends, who would help us out with their homework because they said, listen, we may not have gone to college, but you're going to college.
Right.
And so that was an expectation. So I can definitely resonate with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Many of our resources, we were not always aware. A lot of our resources came from our dream team within our village, but there are so many resources outside that, like scholarships and different scholarships that you can apply for, that I know I was not aware of when I was a child, and partially because my village or my dream team was not aware of it.
Right.
But there's just so many more out there.
Yes.
Yes, and that's definitely true, that there are resources that our community needs to be made aware of, and then given opportunities. Because sometimes all our kids need is just an opportunity.
Yes.
And we know that many of our kids are facing challenges, but challenges for our people is nothing new.
Right.
All the way back to 1619, we've been facing challenges, and we've always met the challenges head on. I could just go down the dream team of African Americans who have faced challenges and who have led us as a community to face those challenges. And so although many of our young people are dealing with difficulties, especially during the pandemic and after the pandemic, there are resources available to us. For one, HBCUs, our historically black colleges and universities. And I have to shout out my HBCU, Howard University, Washington, D.C. And so many of our young people are not even aware that there are HBCUs because we don't have them in California. I believe the furthest west they go is like Texas. Yeah, so just the awareness of historically black colleges and universities, and that can be a viable option for our young people, I think is very powerful. My experience at Howard was just indescribable. Just the sense of identity that I got, the sense of community, having professors that were interested in more than just giving you a grade, but they would check up on you and they were interested in your daily life. And so you were really like a part of an extended family while you were there. Yes, there were parties too. Yeah. Yes, there was homecoming too.
Right.
But there was definitely a strong sense of family and community. And I met some lifelong friends that we still keep in touch even to this day. So definitely our HBCUs, the Black church and other institutions in the community, as I said before, that have meant so much more than just a spiritual experience, but they were a social outlet for us. As we know, even during the civil rights movement of the 60s, it was the Black church that was really the focal point of that movement and really galvanizing the community during that movement. We have our fraternities and our sororities, which are resources in the community, in the Divine Nine. So I have to shout my fraternities and sororities out, and my fraternity in particular, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, which provides so many resources for even our young people. In my fraternity, we have a program called Go to High School, Go to College, that is geared toward our young men, as well as Project Alpha, which is a partnership that we have with the March of Dimes, and working to better the lives of our young men. We have the 100 Black Men of Long Beach, which is a part of the 100 Black Men of America organization. And so every third Saturday of the month, there is a seminar that we hold right here in Long Beach at Cal State Long Beach, a mentoring session. And then every summer we have a week-long literacy institute that we do in partnership with UCLA. So the resources are there. We just have to bridge the gap and make our community aware of them, and then give them opportunities to take advantage of them.
Yes.
And when you speak of the Divine Nine, I don't know if everyone knows that, okay, let's say you went to college and you didn't become a member of Greek. You can still do it as an adult. And I don't know if everybody knows that. You can do it as an adult and become part of that if somehow you missed out for whatever reason.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Right. I did it as a much older adult.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes. And it was much later on in life. But yes, you're right.
Okay.
You can pledge grad chapter.
I knew you could. I didn't know you did.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that you did either. And actually, it's interesting that you said that because I've actually thought about it here recently. I've been thinking about it for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So I more than likely will. So
Wow.
just
Which
have
one,
to
which
find
one?
out.
I was about to say, we will ask which
Yeah,
one.
we ask which one.
They're all great.
AKA.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah. So
All right.
considering. Yeah.
It's out there, so
It's out there.
Right.
It's out there. Right. And while Dr. Wright spoke about the resources that are in the larger Long Beach community, we also have resources at our middle school at Lindbergh.
Yes.
Some of the resources that we have different clubs. We have the Umoja Club. Umoja means unity in the African American community. This is a club that promotes unity among African Americans, but also among all students. This is a club where we do various activities. We possibly go on various field trips. It's a community where we bring other students together so that we can have unity among all students of all backgrounds. We also have the WEB program. The WEB program is a program geared toward 8th grade students, and it supports students in being leaders on campus. We're not looking for students who already are leaders. We're looking for students who have leadership potential. Mm-hmm. So we know that oftentimes our 8th graders, our African American 8th graders, they have leadership potential. And joining WEB would also guide that potential and also develop that potential. So we're looking for students who would be interested in becoming leaders on our campus as well. So those are two of the clubs that we have on campus that support students of African American culture.
And to Ms. Ely's point, I want to speak a little bit more about the resources that we have on campus at our school. For Female Leadership Academy, for example, we've had speakers from the Women's Shelter of Long Beach come and speak to the students about healthy relationships and developing and maintaining healthy relationships, what those look like. We also have partnered with the LA County Office of Education with iempathize.org to address an issue, make the students aware of an issue that's affecting the world with this human trafficking, and how it really affects our population of students, their age group, tremendously. So those are some resources also that we're providing for students at the school, in addition to the clubs that Ms. Ely pointed out. At one other resource outside of the school that I wanted to mention was a partnership for MLA and FLA students with Cal State Long Beach to provide tutors in ELA and math for the students. So that's just a little bit of some of the things that, some of the resources that we are providing through the school district, outside from the community for our students.
One thing I wanted to add to Ms. Madison is that she allows her students to take charge and become leaders. Like she had a student allow them to teach how to crochet. Ms. Madison did not know anything about crocheting, but yet here she has a hat on that she crocheted and learned from a student. So that is really cool. That's really awesome.
That's our students. We benefit and get so much from them. I know you guys all know. I'm the new teacher of the bunch. With I've been at Lindbergh for 3 years and teaching FLA for 2 years. And my first year was online.
Right.
So I'm just so grateful to be a part of this team.
And to your point, Ms. Madison, FLA and MLA with Male Leadership Academy, and I'm really excited about how we've begun to partner together even more this year. Even my boys learned how to crochet, right? So,
Really cool.
so we got rid of all of this gender stigma.
It's good. It's
And-
mental health.
and
it's
we taught them,
self-care.
yes, how to
Yes.
crochet. And then even the partnerships that we've had with MLA and for our young men in the community. Last year, we partnered with the Social Justice Learning Institute, and we had mentors who would come in and work with the young men and really try to motivate them in life. And this year, we've partnered also with organizations to better the young men. We're looking at a partnership with 100 Black Men of Long Beach. And it's so funny how I got involved with them. I was just reaching out to them initially to come up and to partner with our young men. And while we were sitting down talking, they looked at me and said, "What about you?" And I mean, it made sense. It was a natural fit. And so they've done some wonderful things, and we're looking at continuing that relationship. One of the things they did was to extend an activity that we did in the organization in having the young men write a book, compose a book of
Nice.
letters to our fathers.
Wow.
And I mean, that was just in the
Nice.
organization itself is a very powerful experience. And so it's something we want to continue with the young men this year. We kind of got it started last year, but it's something we want to continue this year. And even just having the men from the 100 Black Men of Long Beach come in and speak to the men. And more than speaking, sometimes even just their presence
Yes.
speaks volumes, because often our young men don't have those male role models in their lives. But just to see a man before them who's upstanding, a man of character and integrity, I think says so much. And so we're excited about continuing that partnership. And as we often say in the 100 Black Men, what they see is what they'll be. So, I mean, I'm so excited about everything. We've talked about community, we've talked about legacy, we've talked about family, and so many things that have helped us on our journey.
Yes.
And I think, and all of us have embraced the onus to pay it forward,
Yes.
to pour into the next generation. I think that's why we're here.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
To pour into the next generation, to love them. And I think the
Yes.
foundation of everything we've talked about is love.
Yes.
And so everything that we do, everything that we say comes from our hearts.
Yes.
So we hold high expectations of our students, and I think we understand that high expectations were held with us, first of all, and that when they get out into the real world, that high expectations will be made of them as well. And so, but it's all coming from a place of love, and we have high hopes for their future. And as I often say, I'm excited about your future.
Yeah.
I'll tell my
Yes.
kiddos that all the time.
Yes.
I'm excited about your
Yeah.
future and where you're headed. And I'm excited that I get the opportunity to be, I know, I'm getting up to, that I have an opportunity to play a role
Yes.
in that.
Be part
And
of that
so-
dream team.
Yeah.
They're part of the dream team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And I want to speak to that expectation. I know one of the things that we know that expectation has to be coupled with support and, like you said, love.
Yes.
We have to couple it with that because we understand that our kids need resources, our students need love, but our students need also need support. They need support and resources because we know that there were resources that may not have been made available to us because maybe we didn't know about those resources. But we want to make sure that our students and our kids know about those resources so that they can take advantage of those resources because there's abundant of opportunity in those resources.
And so that's why we're here, to let our students know, to let our parents know, to let our entire community know that we are here for you, we support you, and we love you.
That's right. Thank you again for being part of the first Lindbergh Eagle podcast. And we'll be back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mrs. Vaughn.